Playing Battle Network 4 with Protosoul only was a really fun challenge. Being stuck at 1 HP for the majority of the run due to the HP bug on the Double Soul patch card made it a tense experience and one that I'd love to try out again. Luckily, I have 11 more Double Souls to try this out with. So, let's move on to Red Sun for one of its Double Souls. This is my Battle Network 4 Guts Soul only challenge run. The rules for this challenge run are simple. I played through the first easy mode of Battle Network 4 from a fresh save file, but I have to keep the Guts Soul patch card active at all times. As mentioned, these patch cards come with a battle HP bug, which causes my HP to drain constantly throughout a battle, leaving me at 1 HP for the majority of the run. To make these runs a bit more difficult, I'm also limiting my folder options to ones that fit the theme of each Double Soul. Since Guts Soul gives a plus 30 attack boost to all groundbreaking and non-elemental chips, those are the ones I'll be using for dealing damage. Support chips like Area Grab, Rock Cube, and others which don't deal damage directly are also allowed, but this time I decided to ban Invis and Recovery chips. I'm also going to refrain from using Custom Plus 1 programs this time in favor of HP Plus and Buster programs instead. Lastly, Buster Max mode is obviously off the table for obvious reasons. With the rules out of the way, let's start the Guts Soul only challenge run. So let's start off by discussing my starting folder again. This time, it's actually not a pile of garbage like it was for Protosoul. The early game cannons and especially Vulcans are actually really good chips, and mini bomb chips actually do good damage, assuming they hit their target. The early viruses and AC/DC area can also give the guard chip, which is another good one for Guts Soul. Fortunately, I don't need to rely only on my chips for this run, since I can use the Buster unlike in the Protosoul run. I'll be using the Buster a lot in this run, usually to activate the Guts machine gun. This gives Megaman invincibility frames while shooting 8 rapid fire pellets, doing 40 damage total. This is perfect for deleting early Metars instantly and also for letting me avoid lethal damage, assuming I could time it properly, which of course is how Death 1 occurs. Some things will never change, I guess. Death 2 happens soon after because I used a Vulcan chip a little too early against the Boomer virus. But since I'm bringing up Vulcan, let's quickly talk about how busted this chip is with Guts Soul. Since all non-element chips get plus 30 damage, each Vulcan shot deals 40 damage for a total of 120 damage on Vulcan 1. Naturally, I'll be making sure I pick up the Super Vulcan later on in the run, and this chip is absolutely going to be a staple. Of course, Vulcan isn't the only good chip I can get early. I know Cannon doesn't seem special, but it's actually a great chip when you get it in the star code from the battle mystery datas in the town area, another early game pickup. Cannon isn't even the only star code chip you can get early, since the net dealer in AC/DC 2 sells Spreader in the star code for just 3,200 zennies. Seriously, the folder's actually looking pretty good this early on. The rest of the game was pretty similar to the Protosoul challenge otherwise. Death 3 happened in Tower Comp while I was trying to figure out how to deal with a stupid Melody virus. And as for the Shademan fight, well, let's just say it was a complete 180 compared to my attempts at it with Protosoul. With Shademan so easily vanquished, I got to move on to Higsby's for my chip trading spree. Some of the chips were kinda useless, of course, but I did manage to get a Spreader in the L code, and more importantly, 2 copies of High Cannon D. I even decided to throw in a Light Sword Program Advance just because I thought it was funny, and ended up getting an interesting chip. Sword, Wide Sword, and ironically Longsword. We're throwing away a Program Advance. In order, too. I try to get something amazing for this. It's unfortunate that this wasn't the Wind Soul run, in which case I would have actually been thrilled to see that trade happen. Anyways, after completing the prelims with no issue, I make it to the Density Tournament where my first round opponent is Ponta. Why do I feel sudden PTSD? Oh, great, I haven't learned my lesson apparently. Alright. That virus battle. Sadly, it managed to get me yet again. I should have tried using that binder chip to hit the fan, but it would have missed if I was in a front row, which is exactly where the fan was putting me. So, yeah, I just really hate that fight. The fight against Ponta herself, however, was much easier. With just 300 HP, it doesn't take much to win this one, and a turn 2 double Vulcan is more than enough to give me the win. My next opponent is Gutsman, so I'll actually be earning a soul that I'm using throughout this run. The Gutsman scenario is a long one, but despite the many opportunities for me to get deleted, it only happened once. Yet again, I'm dying to my own lack of patience. The fight against Gutsman was a slow one. Gut Soul's damage output is noticeably lower than Proto Soul's, and this fight shows it. I mostly spent my time in my center panel, hoping to get some chip damage with the machine gun, which backfired against me early on in the fight. Luckily, Gutsman's attacks are easy to dodge, and I managed to take him out with another double Vulcan combo. I guess double Vulcan is the new life sword. My final opponent in this run is Top Man. Somehow this run's first tournament was a literal carbon copy of the Proto Soul run's first tournament. Once again, the scenario itself was harmless, but the fight against Top Man was bound to be difficult. Since I can't use Life Sword like last time, I need to actually be good at the fight, which, sadly... Nope. No. Oh, come on. Nope. Oh, I'm dead. That was not good at all. I died to Top Man 5 times before I finally managed to beat him. The biggest issue was that I was trying to use 2 different program advances, Giga Cannon and Hyper Burst. Unfortunately, my folder still has too many different codes this early on in the game, even with all the star code chips I have, so I was never able to actually find the program advances. On my last attempt, I was still trying to get a PA, but ultimately ended up beating him with some high cannons, a Vulcan, and 2 spreaders on the last turn to finish him off, letting me finally move on in my life, hoping to never fight Top Man again with a limited folder. The last thing I did on the first night of this challenge was fight Gutsman again in ACDC 2, giving me access to the Gutsman chip. It's another chip code in my Alphabet Soup folder, but at least it's a pretty good chip overall, and one that I'll actually be using pretty often. After getting the Gutsman chip on that previous night, I spent way too much of my time grinding for Zenny's off screen, just so that I could have Super Vulcan available for the rest of the run. As mentioned earlier, Vulcan chips are especially strong with Gut Soul, so I'll be using this one a lot. With the attack plus 30 buff from Gut Soul, Super Vulcan deals a total of 480 damage, which would have been really nice against Top Man. But that pain is in my past, and it's time to move on to Land's first date. After easily breaking into the park area to deal with the Nebula Pest, I got access to the Lotto machine, which I'll actually be using in this run. I used the machine to get the Buster Pack program, an HP plus 500 program, and the Snake and Twin Fang 3 chips. Death 11 happens soon afterwards, as I was making my way to Park Area 3 to restart the amusement park rides. Death 12 happens because, just like in Death 11, I clearly can't remember that double crack negates the Shrimpy Virus's attack. Death 13 then happened in the final Toy Robot comp due to a badly timed Guts machine gun, but at least this time I saved the game right before that death, so I wouldn't have to redo that entire robot again. The fight against Shademan comes next, and honestly, it was just as easy as the first one in this run. Being able to hit him with my Buster makes the fight so much more bearable. The actual problem here is that I technically need to break the challenge's rules, since Shademan can only be defeated by using Dark Sword. But since doing so is mandatory according to the game, we'll just let it slide. On to the next tournament. The prelims for this tournament cause no issues, and my first round opponent is Burnman. Deja Vu is back for this one. The fight goes quite well. It's a bit slow at first, but I do manage to get my Super Vulcan as soon as Burnman hits 470 HP, giving me an easy deletion from there. Another deserved ass whooping for Burnman. The second round match is against Flav. So, in 2 playthroughs of Battle Network 4 so far, I haven't seen Sparkman or Crusher at all. Hopefully that means we won't see Polly later either. Before this match, I stupidly died from a Dharma virus trying to use my machine gun. The fight against Flav's Navi is a different story, seeing as he's just a weak normal. Nope. Or I guess I could die to one of his bombs, and then die on the next attempt at the fight to a cannon that I just didn't dodge. Truthfully, fighting while blinded doesn't do me any favors here, but I don't really think that's the reason I died in these fights. Attempt 3 at these fights goes much better, with another Super Vulcan deletion to add to my resume. The final round puts me up against Roll. It's a shame I won't be able to use Roll Soul after winning this one. Nothing interesting happens in the scenario, but the fight had a few highlights. First was me getting hit by a Roll Arrow and losing some chips, naturally. There's also a successful Rock Cube Punch, the only reason I have that chip in this folder to begin with. And lastly, a Vulcan that both cancelled one of her attacks and deleted her for the win. Got a little bit lucky with the placement in that one. The last fight in this arc is of course against Gutsman DS, and it goes perfectly. With access to Vulcan 1 and Super Vulcan on the first turn, I simply wait for his HP to drop below 480 and then delete him with the Super Vulcan. One tournament left to go. Before moving on to the next tournament, I spent a lot of time trying to get the Magnum chip. This chip can be obtained in the V code from battle mystery datas in the international net areas, and is not easy to grind for at all. After numerous battle GMDs, I walked away with a single copy of the chip, but since it's basically a free 160 damage, it's obviously going in the folder. In the Red Sun tournament, my first opponent is Coldman, who I didn't get to face against in my Protosoul run. However, this is a perfect opportunity to show off how fun Gut Soul is in this particular fight, which I of course don't get to do thanks to awkward positioning of his ice cubes and the ice panels on my field. I do manage to get another Rock Cube punch on him and finish the fight off with yet another Super Vulcan deletion. My opponent in the second round is... crap. Son of a bitch! I was really keeping my fingers crossed that it wouldn't happen, but I guess we don't really have a choice. My next opponent is the worst scenario in the entire game, Paulian Jammer. We're gonna skip the details on this one because nobody has 5 years that they can spend on sitting through this scenario and all of its crap. Get an Africa code, find the idol in Sharo, river dries up, get recover item, trudge through the labyrinth, get full cust, fight the punk kid, and wipe him off the face of the net with a well-deserved Super Vulcan. Moving on now. Last up in the Red Sun tournament is Thunderman. In this scenario, I died to another badly timed machine gun, bringing my death total to 17, officially more than a Protosoul run. I died again soon after by failing to react to a Kilby virus that was attacking me. That 19 happened because I didn't know Kilby viruses can move to your center row when the top one is blocked by an obstacle. Learned something new on that one. And that 20 because I got zapped. Time to finally fight Thunderman after that nightmare. The fight against Thunderman is a bit scary. I had to constantly be aware of where his Thundercloud was, which fires Thunderballs at you when you're lining up with them. Fortunately, it moves kinda slow, so it wasn't too hard to dodge. But I also missed 2 high cannons, costing me a lot of potential damage. But I do manage to finish the fight with a Vulcan and a couple of Buster Shots. With all tournaments complete, it's time to take down Dr. Regal. The first thing I need to do is... Wait, where's my endgame footage? And I forgot to save my 4th stream of the run. So I basically have 0 video footage of me reuniting the net areas, going through the meteor comp, and dying to Gutsman SP numerous times in a very vain attempt to get the Gutsman SP chip. I also don't have the footage of me fighting Laserman. So since I do want to be as transparent as possible, I do remember the run ending at somewhere around 29 or 30 deaths, which is a lot, though I can't remember where all those deaths happened. I do know that I didn't die to Laserman, which makes sense since he's such an easy fight, honestly. I also don't remember if I died to my Dark Soul and Duo, but I think I actually managed not to, or at worst I died to Duo one time. Fortunately, while I don't have the footage of my endgame stream, I do still have access to the save file that I played on, with everything untouched after I beat Duo. So the footage you've been watching here has been my fights against my Dark Soul and Duo. Fighting the Dark Soul is actually pretty easy with Gut Soul. It has a tendency to go into your row and fire its buster, so spamming the machine gun does help to do decent damage while also keeping you invulnerable to his attacks. Super Vulcan can also kill it through the undershirt that I keep equipping to myself, which is helpful. As a result, the Dark Soul really isn't an issue at all. I don't think I died to it a single time in the 5 or 6 times that I had to fight it. Duo, on the other hand, was a serious challenge. It's not always easy to time the machine gun to make yourself invulnerable to his random projectiles, and he doesn't always stay in place to let you hit Super Vulcan against him. Fighting Duo ended up becoming a war of attrition, where I needed to evade or block as many of his attacks as possible, and whittle down his HP slowly over time. While recording the fight against Duo, I do end up dying 2 times. But on my 3rd attempt at re-recording, I managed to dodge most of his attacks, hit him with the Red Sun Giga Chip at one point, which is legal since it does get a buff from Gut Soul, and dealt just enough damage to finally take him down again, winning me this challenge run with video evidence that it is in fact doable. So yeah, Gut Soul was an interesting one to play with. It's a way better double soul than I ever thought it was when I was a kid, and despite the high number of deaths in this run, it can definitely be seen as one of the strongest souls in the game. That plus 30 damage to Super Vulcan especially is so useful in the game, and it's technically better than Life Sword since it's doing more damage with just a single chip. My next double soul run is going to be taking me back to Blue Moon with a metal soul only run. I'm thinking that one will be a lot like this challenge with some key differences. I'm sure you already know exactly which chip I'll be abusing in that run, and no, it's not Super Vulcan. After that run though, it might be a while before I put up another one of these videos since I'm going to be going on vacation for 3 weeks in July, but once I come back, it'll be back to Battle Network 4 Mono Soul runs. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and leave a comment below on your favorite moment of the run. And if you're interested in more Battle Network and Pokemon content, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos. I might even do some Paper Mario content in the future since I love the original Paper Mario and actually never played the 1000-Year Door for some reason. Well, it's on the Switch now, so I guess I'll be doing that too. And, as always, thanks for watching.